Hi, this is Sandy,
And this is Trina.
and we're here to talk about.
Lessons that we learn as a result of the loss of a loved one.
Well,
And so
let's talk about it.
let's talk about it. We always start off with we have our own conversations, and then things just will evolve. We don't want you to think that's all we talk about is grief.
No.
We talk about other things as
Yes.
well, but we can always reach back and put this, something that we've talked about and associate it with, something that would help us in grief talk. And so this conversation evolved with just the at anytime we lose someone, one of the things that Sandy did mention is that it's not in vain, the loss.
Right.
And we don't want it to be in vain. And nor does God want it to be in vain.
No.
Their life should not be in vain. And so we talked about what kind of lessons you learn
Right.
as a result of the loss.
So, with the loss, there are many lessons if we're paying attention. And I think you have to be intentional. I think that as I reflect on the losses that I've had in my life personally, I was sharing with Trina, there were lessons in each of those persons that were left behind for me to learn from and to grow from. And that is why their passing is not in vain for me. And I believe that we all are able to have that if we take the time to reflect and to understand what that means for each of us. I know that I have grown. I have so much more intent, and I'm intentional about my thinking, the words that I use, even the places that I go, the time that I spend with people, who I spend that time with. It has all become very important and very intentional for me because of my losses. And that's by choice.
I think we should look at it as being intentional. So what shifted? I think, just thinking about like even the loss of my uncle, my mom's younger brother, it made me say and think, well, life is very short. And so it shifted the way I interact with just my whole family, just that I don't want to take this life for granted.
Absolutely.
So that loss, there was a lesson in it. We're just taking our lives for granted, that we will always be here. And so I have to agree with you that each time you have an experience with loss, if you can just pause for a minute and reflect on yourself. What am I doing different?
Right.
What am I experiencing different? What am I sharing different?
Right.
Whether it's places you go, like you said, how we even think about money, right? Like how you even spend your money because, and you fill in the blanks. There's a lot of blanks to fill in, but there's a lot of lessons to learn when you lose.
I'm going to give you an example for me that I realized, and I didn't realize it immediately. It's been kind of recent when I realized this about myself. I know that the passing of my aunt and uncle, the passing of my sister, the passing of my husband, those passings really had an impact on me on these last couple of years. I've lost some really close people to me. And I know how these people showed up for me and for others. So I find myself, I assigned myself, I guess, to show up. I assigned myself to be intentional about how I show up. And when I get that phone call, or when I get the information, or I get a word of someone needing something, and the way I react to it now versus the way I react prior to these deaths is very different. There was a time where it would just be information. I know about it. It's information, but I really wouldn't do much to act on it, if you will. I pray for a situation. I wish them well on a situation. But now I find myself physically doing something.
Mm-hmm.
and being something for someone who needs something.
Mm-hmm.
That's intentional.
Mm-hmm.
That's me doing it because I know for me, it brings me a lot of peace and a lot of comfort to know that I'm helping and supporting someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an example that I have
Mm-hmm.
of how it's changed me.
Mm-hmm. I think I would agree that that definitely is I have a different response to someone who has a loss.
Yeah.
It's a different response now rather than I'm praying for you. It's like you said, what am I doing for you? How am I going to show up for you in that loss? And so that does tie to how we experience, the loss ourselves and how that loss had some impact on us changing.
Right.
And so, it's the word loss itself is huge, just how we
Right.
apply it, that is something that we no longer can find. But the truth is we can find it in our everyday, that person is still very much a
Yes.
part of how we think and how we make decisions. And so, their loss, if you want to call it that, their passing on is not in vain when we
Right.
are intentional.
Right.
And we want to stop for a minute and just say, how have I changed?
It's so true. And I often say, because my parents have been gone for some time now, but it never stopped me from thinking about them before I make a decision. I still find myself having that conversation with them and wondering, have I made them proud? I want to pay homage to them. I want to pay
Mm-hmm.
respect to them. Although they're gone, that's still so important to me because they were so important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can all learn and grow from a loss. The loss is not in vain.
Mm-hmm.
Your love for them will always and forever be there. But what we do and how we show up for others in spirit of them is important.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you haven't thought about it, we want to encourage you to think about this.
Mm-hmm. You just made me think of that their life could be a guide, for you,
Yes.
especially if it is your parents and what the expectations of,
Right.
what did they expect
Right.
of their child.
Right.
And like you said, am I thoughtful in, am I making you proud? Am I thoughtful in this next decision? And still, whether they're here or not, do I really want to make this decision happen that might embarrass their legacy, right? Because you are their legacy, right?
Absolutely.
When it's your parent, when it's, you're the
Yes.
child of a parent that has passed on, you're the legacy of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how they live. They live through you. They live through your upbringing and
Right.
your decisions that you're still making. And so, it's what do we learn in the loss is kind of the
And I
topic.
really think, Trina, it's also a beautiful way to celebrate this love that we have for these people, right? It's a beautiful way to still hold that light, if you will. The candle doesn't have to be a physical candle that you light. You can carry that light every single day by the actions and the choices that you make in honor of. So I believe that it is a beautiful, beautiful way to review and reflect on how we honor that person.
There are lessons, like
Yeah.
definitely how we again show up for other people. There's some lessons about even dependency, right? So is it that I'm wanting or needing to depend on somebody in this way, and we don't want you to think that, well, I will never again. I've had a conversation with somebody about nevers, and I don't think that any never is reliable, right? We will never do certain things,
Right.
and it might be as a result of a loss. That lesson not may have a flip side, that as a result of this loss, you're never, and so the only never that you can rely on is the Lord's nevers.
Yes.
God is the only one that has some nevers that are very important and they are reliable. Right. Because human beings are predictably unreliable. Right. You can bet money on it that somebody's going to let you down, right? And so I would say, the flip side again, that never loving that way again, or never trusting that way again, as a result of a loss. And that's a lesson, but it may not be the lesson that you really need to live by. Right. Maybe it is love, just unconditional. The next time, love without any armor. Imagine that. That is what you learned in the lesson. That I had so many conditions in how I loved, and now the lesson is I'm gonna just love openly, right, without armor, without expectations that would fall into disappointment. So, there's lessons. However you think of this conversation, however you apply it,
we just hope it triggers some thought.
Yeah.
And that you reflect and take the time. And if you don't have anybody around to remind you of that person that's gone, become a part of that person. Let them continue to live through you. It's my encouragement, and it's my prayer that you find peace. And we hope that you enjoyed this segment. We hope that you will get your friends and family around and talk about it and hear their thoughts and ideas on the subject. And you share this video.
Yeah. And so
until next time, remember, don't forget to find your lighthouse.
It'll help you find your way out of the darkness.
Thank you.
Bye, friends.